Hi there, back here for part two. Jake Reynolds
Nick Walligerski.
and Brian Rohan of filming. For part two, as we promised in the introduction, we're going to focus on handling conflict. Handling conflict was a large portion of the class that we focused on. As we said, you're never going to go through a work life not having a conflict, a problem within a workplace. To basically sum up what a conflict is before we get into this is, conflict is any struggle, disagreement, or difference found in a workplace between employees, clients, whomever it may be. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go through 4 different areas of what we learned about handling conflict, of how it's going to come into play in the real world. Then after we go through these 4, we're going to give a situation, and that situation we're going to apply here. We're going to show how the theories come into play, different strategies, leaders, theories, all of that, and we're going to get into that.
Okay, so we're starting off with situational theory. This is context-based, and it's really changed on the role of 2 people. And in our example that we're going to provide you, we have a supervisor, and then we have also being directed, he's dictating an employee. So we had either 2 ways you can look at a person, theory X or theory Y. Theory X people usually don't like to work. They need to be directed towards, and they don't really want to show responsibility. And the theory Y person tends to like work, is mature enough to show responsibility, and when working in the right environment, that's when they really show the responsibility that they have with their work.
And to add on what he was saying there, these 2 different theories often applied. People focus them on generations. As we saw in a clip in class, some young employee said to a CEO who was maybe in his 70s, said, all right, send me a text, send me the contact, and technology's updating, new theory, like as theory here shows new generation. Theory X was the CEO, he's not in with the new technology quite yet, and it showed the theory Y also was much looser while the boss was more focused. It showed a big difference, and it shows how different theories and different generations can kind of clash, and sometimes it's very good, sometimes it's very bad, but you're going to run into that no matter where you are. So we're going to move up here to strategies. What can you do once you find that conflict? So first, say a conflict comes about you in the workplace. 3 focuses. Differentiation. Differentiation is you kind of have different differences on different views, and you can come together and join forces and just come to a commonality. Often that isn't available depending on type of leader, which we'll touch on in a minute. But then there's fractionation. This you break up into smaller pieces. There's often a big problems, but you don't always have the luxury to solve that big problem with one goal, one idea, one issue. So this will break it up maybe to 4 or 5 steps. Say there's a problem with a certain product. You're not going to just attack the product. You're going to see, it's because the region you're selling it in, is it because of the cost of the product, how much it makes the cost, all that. You can go into real depth about the steps you can take to solve that. Third, face saving. This is often common in situations where someone is afraid they may lose their job. Some people in jobs may try to be a little more flexible, a little more loose than they should be with their bosses. They tend to do this, not necessarily lazy, but they have different views, different ways. This is often a problem within many companies. We explored a case where between a boss and employee, and in order for the employee, just bought new car, new house, all this, and he was under fire on a 30-day trial. This is a strategy he would use because he had to save his reputation, he had to save his face, he had to save himself in order to keep that job, keep his salary, all that. He had three leaders. Authoritarian. Authoritarian is basically a leader. It's almost like a dictatorship, if you want to look at it that way. He wants complete power. He wants everything done his way. Not always a bad thing, but that's just the way they were brought up, the way they were learned, taught, and that's why the company hired them. Specifically, some companies may like that, so they hire them for that reason. Second is democratic. Democratic is possibly one of the better environments to work with the boss, because he's not too powerful, he's not too loose, but he likes things done for the ultimate goal for the company. He likes his ideas, but he doesn't want to leave out his employees. He wants to bring them into play. He wants to hear what they have to say, what they want to do, what they think is best for the company. So personally, I may want to work in an environment like that when I'm older. Then there's laissez-faire. Laissez-faire, it's interesting. It's kind of loose, laid-back leader. Someone who trusts their employees and thinks they can sit back, and even when they see the employees maybe struggle at times or see them doing things that are faded away from the goal, in the long run they have enough trust, they have enough unity, community within the company that allows them to relax, take care of just them instead of worrying so much on their job. So just a few examples here. Maybe with authoritarian, if there was such a type of leader like that, you may want to use face saving, because you're not going to be able to reason with him as much. You want to save your job, although it's not always like the friendliest thing. You're going to have to save your job. You want to save your money, all that, and maybe move in the long run, but for the time, you're going to have to use that. Then democratic. Democratic you can use probably, if I had to say, these two, because you can approach them, you can give your idea, which would be differentiation, and then for democratic, they want to hear you, so both these are just fragmentation, you can break it down to. It's an effective way to just approach the leader. Laissez-faire, any of the three really, also similar to democratic, but they want to hear what you want to say, they trust you. It's a different, unique situation.
I think one thing I would like to add is, if you are in a situation where you have a conflict, it's really important to realize what kind of worker you are and like what kind of boss you're dealing with. So once you have a sense of what this is, then you can figure out or use a strategy to handle those conflicts.
Certainly. Theory Y, for example, doesn't always mesh well with authoritarian. These are things we want to look into, or research before you apply for a job, accept a job, but you're always going to run into these problems. So now, after we've walked you through all we've learned here, we are going to use a situation that we've drawn up that will effectively bring in these 4 different areas. So an example is, say a boss or CEO is very powerful, likes things done his way, kind of an older guy, maybe 50s, 60s. He believes the company needs something done specifically, something done exactly, something done unique, exactly the way he wants. However, the worker doesn't always accept that exceptionally well. If it's a new person in the company, maybe someone new out of college, they have their own ways. So they would be a theory Y. However, if in the long run, the worker doesn't always listen to the authoritarian leader is gonna lose their temper, maybe get very frustrated, and question their job. So here's the example. The example we just gave, if they're doing their own thing, authoritarian leader, he wants complete power, he wants everything done his way exactly. Theory Y is the worker that's doing it. He's doing it a little loose, which doesn't mesh well here with authoritarian, which in our generation, theory Y, we might run into this problem ourselves. We see different unique ways, different strategies and all that. But when it comes down to it, if the authoritarian leader puts the employee maybe on a work leave or an evaluation, then you got to use a strategy. That worker has to use a strategy. What are they going to do to solve the problem? What are they going to do to keep their job? In this situation, you could use any 3 if you want to look at it that way, but if I had to suggest one, I'd use space saving, because the authoritarian leader like I said, I keep repeating, what exactly, that's what our team leader is, they want specifics. The theory and why has to learn to adapt to that. At this point, they have to save their job, they have to do well in the evaluation, they have to mesh better with the company, and they're going to have to learn how to deal with him. So that's how we show handle conflict in our situation. We hope you learned a lot here. You're gonna run into this anywhere you work. We're gonna run into it for 50 years. It's gonna everywhere. Not even just in the workplace, in athletics, in internships, at home, anything. And I hope these strategies will help anyone in the future.